The theory that I have found greatly relates to critical pedagogy is that of Howard Gardner and his theory of multiple intelligences. Gardner's theory of multiple intelligences states that there are 8 types of intelligences with many sub-intelligences for each. You'll find that these intelligences are not simply the ability to think things, but also the ability to do them. Each intelligence, from Gardner's point, runs independent of the others, but that's mostly for clarity because he also believes that they're linked in many ways. For example, literacy and music, he believes, are unparalleled to each other, and music and math, this would be the theory where you hear people say that musicians are often good at math or mathematicians are good at music. This is the theory that is known for that. He also believes that the traits of his theory are displayed most obviously in children because children often think out loud and are constantly learning new things and growing. But he does believe that these intelligences are still displayed in life, in later life, just not as obviously because the adult mind is more personal and more hidden. And he also believes that the intelligences are computed, which means that they're performed and lived out. Howard Gardner defines an intelligence as the capacity to solve problems or to fashion products that are valued in one or more cultural settings. This means that an intelligence is not merely a way of thinking, but that it must have a product and be useful in society. The first of Gardner's intelligences is linguistic intelligence, which relates to both spoken and written language, the ability to learn them and the ability to use them to accomplish goals and to express oneself. Gardner believes that writers, poets, lawyers, and speakers have the highest linguistic intelligence, but obviously everyone has some of it. The second is logical and mathematical intelligence, which means not just to be able to do things in math, but also to analyze problems logically, and many things dealing with science and to investigate things scientifically. This means to be able to see patterns in things, or to really just think logically. And this often is highest in scientific and mathematical people. The third, which really shows for critical pedagogy in music education, is musical intelligence, which is not simply performance of music, but also composition and appreciation, which I thought was the most surprising. It means to be able to hear pitches and to compose things, and also to hear rhythms. This specifically runs parallel to linguistic intelligence. The fourth of Gardner's intelligences is bodily and kinesthetic intelligence, which is the ability to use one's body. He sees that this is related to mental things, and that just the ability to use it means that you have this intelligence. The fifth is spatial intelligence, which really just means to be able to compare a lot of space and a very little amount of space, and to function in both. The sixth is interpersonal intelligence, which means to understand other people and their intentions and motivations and really just human nature. It allows people to work well with others in groups, and it's also really just people skills. The seventh of Gardner's main intelligences is intrapersonal intelligence, which means understanding oneself and why you feel and think the way you do. The final of Gardner's intelligences is a naturalist intelligence, which means that human beings can recognize things in the environment and the world around them. And this is something that many, many cultures value very highly. Many people believe that Howard Gardner's work is directly linked to that of John Dewey, mostly in the fact that education is not simply for knowledge, but also comes with a moral obligation. This means that educators, in Gardner's belief, have an obligation to their students also to make them good citizens, specifically in a democratic society. To him, knowledge is not just for the sake of knowledge, but how it can be used for good. He's quoted as saying, "I want my children to understand the world, not just because the world is fascinating and the human mind is curious. I want them to understand it so that it will be positioned to make it a better place. Knowledge is not the same as morality, but we need to understand if we are to avoid past mistakes and move in productive directions. An important part of that understanding is knowing who we are and what we can do. Ultimately, we must synthesize our understandings for ourselves. The performance of understandings that try matters are the ones we carry out as human beings, in an imperfect world which we can affect for good or for ill." Howard Gardner defines an intelligence as the capacity to solve problems or to fashion products that are valued in one or more cultural settings. This means that an intelligence is not merely a way of thinking, but that it must have a product and be useful in society. There were many reasons that I chose this theory as one that applies to critical pedagogy. The first was because it allows students to explore many different areas of knowledge, not simply just reading and writing and math, which are often the most obvious in the classroom, but it really allows for students to be exposed to everything. And that advocates for having a variety of subjects, specifically music, in schools. Gardner placed a great emphasis on musical intelligence. It also recognizes, like Bernice McCarthy's learning styles, that students have different strengths and experiences and ways of learning. He even specifically uses the term learning styles in many of his writings. It also provides guidelines for teachers for lesson planning, because you have to hit all of the points, all of the different types of intelligences within a lesson. And finally, it honors what a student brings to the classroom, because they have strengths and weaknesses, and it now acknowledges that they already have many intelligences, they just need to be developed. Because musical intelligence is one of Gardner's specific intelligences, it's easy to see how this could apply to the music classroom. To Gardner, musical intelligence does not just mean performance, but it also means understanding rhythm and notes, composition, of course performance, and also just appreciation of music, to be able to hear the beauty of music. If a lesson were grounded in Gardner's theories, it would provide opportunities for students in all of these areas, not just one, because they would be able to use all of their talents. This could be done specifically through diverse activities that really engage students in many different ways, whether it's through composing or through performing, or merely just listening and understanding music.